welcome to a slightly more festive edition of the Old Poetry Podcast. And I am joined today by the one and only Mr. Chesney Hawkes. How you doing, Chesney?
All right, Chris. Sorry I didn't get the memo for the Christmas edition. I would have worn my hat as well.
No, well, it's not really a Christmas edition. I thought, well, it was a bit festive. I had one lying around, and I'm a massive fan of Christmas. I love Christmas. I'm like a kid at Christmas.
Yeah.
No, thank you very much for taking the time to come on. I really, really appreciate it. We just spoke off air there that I was trying to catch you on a cruise ship quite recently, and I didn't manage to, but I managed to get a message to you, and we've ended up here. So, like I say, I appreciate you taking the time to come on, pal.
It's my pleasure, mate. It's my absolute pleasure. Glad we made it work.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I like to do with all the podcasts is start at the beginning, a bit about your kind of childhood, where you grew up, and then the route you took over the years and kind of what led you down the path that you kind of did. So yeah, over to you, pal.
Okay. Well, I grew up in quite a rock and roll household. My dad was in a band called the Tremolos in the 60s. So, guitars propped up in every corner, and my dad's friends were all rockers, 60s rockers, people like Jerry Marsden from Jerry and the Pacemakers, and bands like Searchers and the Marmalade and the Herman's Hermits, and John Lennon lived in the same town as us when I was a baby. Dad toured with the Beatles and the Who and all the, his stories are unbelievable. He's the one you should be talking to, Chris, to be honest.
Well, tap him up. I'm game.
No, he's not quite well enough to be doing that now.
Right.
You might have missed the boat on that one, but yeah. So growing up in that household was very liberal, I would say. Kind of scenes of excess and rock and roll. And my brother and sister and I were never going to be accountants. My mum was also an actress and a kind of game show hostess. So yeah, it was pretty crazy childhood, but a lot of love and a lot of music. And so we kind of gravitated towards that. I was always, a singer and a songwriter, even at the age of, 12 years old. In fact, I made a record when I was 9.
Wow.
Yeah, so I never had a proper job, never did anything else but music. And, when it came to, I was playing piano in wine bars and pubs and stuff like that, and weddings and bar mitzvahs or whatever. When I was 14, I was doing that. I just sit in the corner playing John Lennon songs or Elton John, and that's where I learned my craft, to be honest. But I had bands that early too. My brother was my drummer right from the beginning. Well, we were in a band together at that point, and then he stuck with me all the way through it. And then when eventually I got a big break when I was about 17, I got a part in a film with Roger Daltrey, which was a very musical-based film. And and that's where it all took off, to be honest. It's One and Only was the first single from that soundtrack, and that's where it went. The rest is history, mate.
Well, that kind of propelled you into kind of sort of superstardom, didn't it? And I suppose that was going to be, obviously growing up in a musical family, it's almost a bit of a given that you're going to pick up some of those kind of, there's always the kind of scope that you might have rebelled and gone, you know what, I'm not doing that. I'm not following the footsteps, because that happens as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, I guess so. From your parents, we definitely, if that happened, it would have been kind of the opposite way round to normal people, where, the parents would be, I don't know, lawyers or whatever, and then you end up going into rock and roll. I did it the other way around.
Yeah, no, fair play. Who wouldn't want to get into it? And I think I've got a guitar sat right next to me, and I've been trying for years. And with these sausages, I kind of really, really struggle. And I think the older you, I might have to do something different, because I'm not getting it. It's
drums
hard
or bass, drums or bass, mate. If you got the sausage fingers.
I don't think the neighbours all like the drums, to be honest. I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, getting into music and certainly guitar playing and stuff like that from a young age is certainly gonna, the younger you are, you soak up like a sponge, don't you?
Yeah, I think you're right there. Piano was always my first love, and musically, we actually owned John Lennon's piano when I was a kid. My dad was working in the studio on the grounds of John Lennon's house, and John was getting rid of the piano, and my dad grabbed it, and that was the piano I learned to play on. So I always,
that's impressive.
I know, even as young as 9, 10 years old, I was playing Imagine and feeling like I had John Lennon under my fingertips. It's still in the family, actually. So yeah, so I guess so. Seeing all of my dad's friends, they used to throw these parties where they'd all kind of jam and stuff like that. And even when we were kids, we would get up and sing, and it was just part of life. That's all it was.
But obviously, I have heard as well that if you can play the piano, you can pretty much turn your hand to a lot of instruments. Did you feel that was the case?
I mean, yeah, I do find that the piano is kind of like the mother of all instruments for sure. Obviously these days, I'm in my studio here. I can't really show you my studio there. Yeah. Got all my stuff here and keyboards and everything everywhere. But so with a keyboard nowadays, of course, you can pretty much play anything. You know what I mean? Because you just like put up the strings and play them on the keys and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, the stringed instruments are very different. But I feel like if I didn't have my grounding in piano, I wouldn't have kind of understood the guitar so well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think you're right in a way.
Yeah, I'm trying to get my kind of children into instruments and stuff at a young age, like 14 and 12 and stuff, because I just think, the younger you are, you pick up, and the older you get, I think your patience and kind of your ability to learn is not quite there like it was as a kid, so.
Yeah, definitely. That's a good age to be starting, like 14 for sure. Get him into it now for sure.
I'm trying, but he's again listening to Dad. What do I know? No, nothing. I've not done anything.
No,
so
I get it. He's at that age. He's at that age.
Yeah, absolutely rebelling. No, so yeah, awesome stuff. So obviously the kind of the 90's, your kind of main most popular song came out. So how does that? Because obviously you've been in a film. Obviously your dad, you were kind of a little bit used to obviously being surrounded, like you said, with these musicians and kind of a bit of that thing. But obviously you were propelled into the everywhere, top of the pops, everywhere. You were number one for a number of weeks. So how did you cope with that?
Weirdly enough, I feel like when it came to my time, to get out there, it wasn't a weird thing. Like fame wasn't weird, just because I'd witnessed it my whole life. All my dad's friends were famous, and Dad was famous. I don't know. It just felt in a weird kind of precocious way. It was like it was my time, But having said that, there's no way you can really prepare yourself for that kind of fame. It changed everything, all of those kind of things you take for granted, as a human in this world, but especially as a kid, like just go to the pub with your friends or go to the cinema or go up the pub or go up the shops and, whatever. I couldn't do any of that stuff, and all of my friends were going off doing their rite of passage, going to university and all those things, going clubbing and things like that. And I couldn't do any of that really, unless I had like a couple of security guards with me or something. But then again, I did get to experience other things, which was like traveling around the world and playing in arenas and stadiums and stuff like that all over the world. And really, it was an amazing experience. But it really does take its toll. It's fun, but it's tiring, exhausting, and never ending. Seemingly never ending. And there was times when I think I did 7 countries in one day once. And as a 19-year-old kid, it's that was like, I actually fainted in Japan once because of that. It's like just way too much work put onto one person, and answering the same questions and stuff. You end up kind of like, your answers, for certain questions, and you just kind of press play in the end, So it's kind of weird.
Autopilot.
Yeah, you do. You go into autopilot when you're on a promotional run. I'm actually on one right now. I've got a new record out right now. So, yeah, but this is different because we're just having a chat. But yeah, then of course the other side of it, which I really did experience, was the downside. After the craziness, where you're dropped by the record label, and then suddenly you can't get your who you thought were family, or the record people around you and stuff like that. You can't even get them on the phone anymore. So feeling very, very alone and kind of like a washed up pop star at 22 years old was difficult. It was very difficult.
Yeah, so I suppose what you tell me, as in, obviously it's a fickle industry. They obviously realised you'd shot to fame with I Am the One and Only, and it was massively popular. And I'm not going to lie, and I'm not going to try and blow smoke up your arse, Chesney, but you're a good-looking lad. You still are a very good-looking man. I just said that off air. But so you kind of had this whole marketable image, great voice, catchy song, good-looking lad. So they must have seen that and gone, right, let's exploit this, get the most out of him. And you just kind of, you are just cash cow, aren't you, really?
Definitely, you're a product. I, growing up, wanted to do this, but I always wanted to do it. Like, I always thought it would work in a way as like, I'm just a musician and a songwriter. I'm a singer-songwriter, and I always thought it would happen that way. What happened was when the record label picked me up and signed me, they saw exactly what you're saying. Pretty boy, good voice. Let's make him a heartthrob. Let's go down that road. Like he's a pop star for sure. Which I get it. I totally get it. But it's not what I expected. So, and of course that is very, very different difficult to maintain. A career of any kind of longevity in at that level, in that world, is very, very hard to maintain. And obviously it proved that way. And I saw the good side of the business where everyone thinks you're amazing, and then saw the very bad side of the business where you're yesterday's news. You're the chip paper basically.
Yeah, but that's the harshness of it. Again, and it's not, I'm not saying it's acceptable at all if you was like a 35-year-old man, but you'd probably be able to deal with it a little bit better because you've got a bit more knowledge. But to be, like you say, like 22 and it kind of feel like a washed up pop. I mean, 22, you're still learning as an adult. You're practically still a kid, aren't you? Till your mid-20s, really.
Yeah, so, I've got a 23-year-old boy. So yeah, I mean, I look at him and think, wow, I can't imagine what that would be like for him to go through that, And I would want to kind of wrap him up in cotton wool and just make sure he doesn't get affected by it, Because at the time, for me, I don't think that I really dealt with it, because I didn't know how. As you said, when you get older, you kind of garner tools, don't you, to help you through certain things in life. But at that time, I was a kid. I didn't really have the support, adult support around me because my parents are fucking lunatics. But my brother was with me the whole time. And, I'm not saying mum and dad weren't there. They were, of course, they were there for me and loved me and everything else. But they had their own crazy life going on and everything else. And I never talked to anyone professionally about any of that stuff, and not until much later on when you look back on it and you're like, because at the time I think it's like water off a duck's back, it'll be fine, push that emotion down, put the lid on, and of course it festers, and that all came out later in life when I started to kind of really look into it a little bit more, and it's good to look at those old traumas and just kind of dust off the old pebble and just give it a good look at, have a good cry. Us men need to do that more often. And
absolutely, yeah.
And then just you feel a little bit freer, having kind of just, I don't know, given it some air, and just let it out, as it were. So my wife's very, very influential in that way for me. She's annoyingly good at getting those emotions out, as painful as it can be sometimes.
They have that kind of. They have that ability, don't they? And it's my fiance is a firefighter, the same as me, and she's on the crisis team. So she's done a lot of kind of training to talk to people that have been to horrific incidents and sort of get that emotion. She tried it on me, but for whatever reason with me, I'm weird, as in I don't let stuff kind of. I don't know. I don't know whether I'm bulletproof me or something, but it doesn't mean in the future that might not affect me. But certainly with yourself, a lot of the trauma comes from younger in life, maybe that be a teenager or childhood or whatever, and then it manifests itself as you get older. And like you say, because at a young age you do, it's like water off a duck's back, you brush it off, you almost protect yourself, create a coping mechanism, and then when you get older and you look further into stuff, that's when it comes out, isn't it?
No, absolutely. That is the truth. I mean, some people don't ever really look at those things and just think it's, all right, I'm fine, I'm over that. Blah, blah. But the truth is you're not, and you can work on yourself and move forward from those things that happened to you in childhood, even if it's not something, even if you don't think that your childhood, had any issues or, anything like that. There's always something there that you can look at and try and move on from, for sure.
People always assume that it's something horrific of childhood when they talk about childhood trauma, and that's human nature. They think it's something kind of horrific, but it can be something so simple as a parental divorce. I know that is a big deal for a child. That's probably not the best example, but it's because your kind of your mind and your brain are very, very young and immature. they kind of perceive things a lot differently. So for an adult that's very, very trivial, it might be a massive thing for a child. So like you said, quite rightly so there, it's not always these big events. It might be something little that you're kind of struggling to process and need to talk about later on in life. So I'm a big advocate for that.
Yeah, good. Me too. Absolutely. And I've kind of looked. I think you can do it as a young person as well. And my kids, 23, 21, 19, and my wife and I have been definite advocates of like really kind of getting to the meat of what it is you're talking about. Because when you're arguing, it's not very often what you're actually arguing about is what it actually is. It's getting a little bit deeper and figuring out what the actual meaning of this conversation is. So yeah, that's something we've worked on as a family.
So yeah, no, good stuff. It's good that you're kind of open as a family, and I am too a big advocate that I want my kids to come and talk to me about anything. I don't want it to be anything that you can't talk about, So no, that's a really good thing. So back to obviously 22 years of age, you've obviously toured the world. I'm sure there's some stories in there that, because let's be honest, and this isn't meant to be insulting, you appeared to the outside as a clean-cut kind of teen heartthrob, but I bet there was some craziness and parties back in the day. I don't expect you to go into details, but I mean,
no, there was. When you get a bunch of teenagers together and throw them on a tour bus and go around the world, and there's like girls everywhere, and everything available, and drink and whatever else at hand, things are going to happen.
Absolutely.
It's like kids are going to party, and yeah, of course we did. There were some fun times for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, 22, you've kind of, things are going off the boil. You kind of, how did you kind of personally deal with that at the time? Did you consider kind of having to, I mean, I think obviously with the popularity of your first few songs and everything, I would have said that obviously you would be still making royalties off them because they were popular songs, but did at some point you have to consider like going into normal work and getting a normal job and stuff, or did that happen?
I never considered that, but I did definitely go into the hole quite deep, because there's not really, you can't live off of the success that I had there for the rest of your life. It's like, and also I was that classic pop star thing where I was like, I bought all my family a car and spent loads of money on a big old studio. You get a car, you get a car. I was that kind of person, and because when you're young and you got that kind of money coming in, you just think it's always going to be there. You don't think about the future, and of course that's not always the way. So no, I definitely got into some financial issues for sure, and it really wasn't until my wife came along when I was about 24 that I was thousands and thousands and thousands in the hole, and her family comes from like a banking background, so she kind of like was like, okay, let's see what we can do here. She's very sensible with money, and kind of she was kind of raised in that you got to save money for your for later in life and all that kind of stuff, and luckily like she kind of helped me out, but there was a time when I definitely was just lost really. I did how did I deal with all that stuff, you asked? Well, I guess I did get into a little bit of drugs and stuff like that, and kind of rebelled against that pretty boy pop star thing. But really, I was very tenacious and just kind of, I started bands and just carried on writing, just dust myself off and keep going. It's like, what can I do about this? Well, you're good at what you do. You've done it before. You could do it again, so that's why I just basically through the 90s I just wanted to be in Radiohead, so I just turned my guitar up to 11, shoegazed, formed bands. If anyone asked for the one and only, I told them to fuck off.
Well, you must have got bored of kind of singing that and people asking for it, but obviously I probably think in reflection now you're obviously kind of proud of that sort of record that you produced and the stuff back then.
Yeah. Nowadays, I rebelled against it in the 90s for sure, and you have got to remember it was a very different time for me back then. No, I was very, very uncool to the general public through the 90s. After that downside, it was like, God, I had so much stick from press and people or whatever, and I just thought it was all over for me, It's different now, and time has a amazing way of healing that kind of stuff, So nowadays, yeah, of course, I have a great relationship with that song, and I love it. I think I'm very proud of the record. It's a great song, and also I love the fact that people have emotional connections to it because it takes them back to certain times in their youth, or and even nowadays I get kids of your kids' age like singing it. Like I get TikTok videos and stuff of 15-year-old girls singing it and stuff like that, which is, I mean, amazing. It's the great thing about music, I guess. It's like it has a life of its own, and that life that those songs have is nothing to do with me. It just goes off and makes its own emotional connections. And in the 34 years since I put that record out, you can
don't say
imagine.
that.
Yeah,
Gosh.
I know. You can imagine the stories and the messages that I've had from people. It was the first song playing. It was a song playing in a club when I met my wife. It was our first song at our wedding. It was played at my brother's funeral. I mean, just every story you can imagine. Other emotional connections that really have nothing to do with me, and it's kind of humbling in a way. I kind of give up ownership of it and realize that it belongs to the people that love it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is one of those songs, wherever if it came on at any sort of venue where there was a lot of people, straight away within unity, you'd have hundreds and maybe thousands of people singing along and knowing every word. And that, I don't know, I never, unless I suddenly master the guitar and become a massive rock star in the next 5 years, I can't see that happening. But, that must be like really kind of fulfilling and weird as well at the same time.
Yeah, it is both of those things. I'm proud of it. And what is odd, is as time goes on, is that it adopts a kind of a different feeling, like with people. It becomes kind of like a cult record, or like classic, and all those words, and like a legendary record, or whatever it is, that people say about it. And I can't take that in because I'm just me, and I'm just a bloke, and with a family and whatever. But people kind of do have, those kind of feelings about a record like that. And there's not many records like that I call it a song with wings. It's gone off and found its own life, and it is. I'm humbled by it. I really am. It's amazing.
Sweet stuff. Yeah, like I say, it brings back memories for me, and my kids know the song, and like I say, they're 12 and 14, so it's gone on through the generations, so that's a good thing. Do you think if you was born at a different time when social media, you think things would have been different? Because obviously back then you had to produce a record, you had to buy the record, or you had to tape it off the radio, which again, as children now will have no comprehension of kind of how that was. Whereas now, there are musicians, and it's a good thing. You get more kind of, you can get to see more musicians because of social media. Do you think it'd have been different for you if you'd have had that social media, and social media would have been around back then?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when I first put records out, there was no internet. Let alone nobody had a mobile phone, let alone social media. It was just a very different world. The pop stars they had a mystique about them. I mean, my idol at the time was, through the 80s and 90s was Prince. And I loved the mystique behind his personal kind of life, if you know what I mean. You don't really know anything about him really, but it was just kind of mysterious and amazing. And I would read every single line and note when I get the vinyl, and just read who wrote it, who did the production, who played on it, all of that stuff. These days, what Harry Styles had for lunch. It's just a very different world. I don't know what it would have done to me, but I'm living in that world now. I'm releasing records now, so I'm to kind of adopt myself into modern social media life. And I have a social media team that helps me out and stuff, but like it's I have to post a certain time and every day, and I have to do something that's like just to keep the numbers going, because that's the way the world works. I wish it wasn't. I'd rather be making music than making content, which is basically what it is to be a singer-songwriter these days. You have to make content,
You do have to be on it like a lot, and I found that in a similar sort of way with the podcast. I'm trying to promote the podcast, so you got to try and put out shorts, you've got to kind of put out clips on Instagram, and it becomes almost, it's just all the time, and you get sick of posting, don't you? And so I know, like you say, you've kind of got a bit of a social media team, but I obviously do everything myself. So
yes. Well, I still have to do a lot myself as well. Basically, what my team helps me with is like ideas on what to do for the week. So it's more like a planning situation. So I create the content, they know when to post it and what hashtags and all that kind of stuff to do, just to help the algorithm and all that kind of stuff. Because,
Yeah.
you know, I'm a man of a certain age. I don't know how the hell bloody TikTok algorithm works. I don't think I want to know.
It's a minefield as well. It's in a minefield, and I've actually just put out a post this morning as well. I think because I've not experienced it before. Because I like to think what you see is what you get with me. I don't have the ability to be any different than that. Probably due to intelligence, but I'm experiencing some sort of trolls and haters at the minute that kind of not many, but kind of people popping up and saying this, and I am thick-skinned and I try and ignore it, but there is an element of it that kind of will get to you. I was going to say, so how did you have that same sort of thing? Because we're all human, and as much as big and tough as what you want to kind of claim you are, these things can be quite hurtful and stuff. So how do you kind of deal with that side of thing as well? Do you get it, first of all? I suspect you do, like everybody.
I do. I mean, I don't get it as much as I used to, funny enough. You know, in the early days, obviously it wasn't on social media, but I was absolutely eviscerated in the press. You know, there was a lot of haters. I equate it to like being on a battlefield, and like I guess it's more like an energy feeling, like, you know, it's like where all of the arrows are coming down on you, you know, and you've got like this little shield, and you're just trying to protect yourself somehow from all of this hatred coming at you. You can't help but be affected by that. It's tough, you know. I mean, a few things I do. One is I try not to read the comments. I try not to read comments on.
Difficult.
Yeah, but now and again you'll see them, and you're like, oh, there they are. There are arseholes out there. You know, simple as that, Chris. I mean, anonymous, and especially nowadays in social media, you know, they're just anonymous dicks who just want to kind of make a name for themselves, or just kind of hide behind anonymity and just throw out hate to people without really thinking through how it might affect, you know, that person, people around them, their kids, their parents. You know, I don't do any of that on social media. I do not put anything hateful or even kind of negative. I just don't do it and don't respond. The thing is, don't believe the hype. So you don't believe the great things that people say about you. Just don't believe it. It's not real. Don't believe the bad shit, because it's going to happen anyway. I mean, that's a good thing to think about in life anyway, to be quite honest with you. Stick to your own integrity. You know that you have good morals. You love your kids, that you're a good person, you blah, blah, blah. You just, as long as you know that inside yourself and you have your integrity and your morals intact, you can kind of love yourself. And that's what really matters. As long as you got your own self-respect and you can empower yourself, then you're going to be okay, you know, because really none of it's real. None of it is.
Yeah, you have to keep telling yourself that. You know, like I say, it doesn't affect me. And someone did jokingly say to me, says that you know that you're doing things right and you're doing good when people start hating on you. And you know what? Well, it is good. It is one of them things.
You're always going to get it. A lot of it is a mirror, what I would call mirroring behavior. And so if anybody's kind of like, you know, going onto your social media and giving you shit for whatever reason, it's basically about them. It's not about you. You know, it's just a complete mirror to their face, you know, because the truth is you're doing this for the right reason. You're doing it to help people that might be suffering with their mental health. You're doing it for your brothers in the paratrooper world. And like, you know, you are doing it for the right reason. You know that. That person who's trolling you for whatever reason probably knows that as well. And it might be a jealousy thing. It might just be like, you know, cynical thought behavior, and it goes, basically it's back on themselves. It's totally back on themselves.
Yeah, and I think people actually make livings out of, you know, the more, and that's why I stayed clear of X or Twitter as it was formerly called, because to really what I've seen to get on there, you've just got to be controversial, post things and repost things that are controversial. And I'm not about that. I'm trying to post positive stuff, you know.
Yeah.
So
you can do positive stuff on X and Twitter because it's up to you. You know, just, I mean, I do use Twitter actually, and but I've moved on to this new one, Blue Sky. Have you seen that?
I haven't. No, I've not heard of that.
It's a new kind of Twitter which is taking off like crazy. I think since Elon Musk has taken over Twitter and turned it into a bit of a negative place. So the people that used to run Twitter have started this thing called Blue Sky, and they're now like really taking off. And it's what they call user generated algorithm, which is like, you know, positive side of things. And it's kind of like, it's like Twitter but clean and
Okay, but I'll take a look at that then. Yeah, definitely. I suppose going back to what you said there as well, like, when I said about kind of not coming away from the music industry because you continue to make music, but for someone like me and probably the general public, because you're not massively in the public eye, people will assume that you're not making a career out of music. But you don't have to be producing number one after number one and top 40 records all the time to be making a really, really good living and producing great music. Obviously, you've gone on and continued to make music throughout. And obviously, you kind of been successful with that, haven't you? So,
Yeah, I never stop. Once an artist, always an artist, Chris. I can't pass a guitar without picking it up. I still had the passion for music, and I always did all the way through. And I've made many albums over the years. If any of your listeners are interested,
I'm
and
sure
I've
they
just
will
put
be, definitely.
I just yeah, and I've just put a new record out, which is doing really well. This first, actually, since the 90's. This record, first two singles are playlisted on Radio 2, which is like, what's happening?
Wow.
It's amazing. Yeah, I was like, Paddy McGuinness played my latest single this morning. I was like, good on you, boy. So I'm very, very, exciting times for me. I'm going on tour. That pretty much sold out next year. And like, it's, the album comes out in February, which is available for pre-order now. So I'm actually going through a bit of a renaissance right now.
Oh, happy days. No, it's good. It is good. And I've had numerous people that kind of along the way and just said, you come across as a really nice person. And I can actually clarify that because I kind of spoke to a lady on the phone and she says you were absolutely gutted that she missed when I tried to get hold of you. And here you are now and you seem absolutely lovely. So from my perspective, I like to see people that are nice people that are doing positive things be successful. And I hope it long continues, Chesney.
Thanks, Chris.
No drums, mate. It comes from the heart. I mean it. I just,
I know.
You know what the weird bit is when I tell people, that weirdly I've had all sorts of guests on. I had Al Murray on, and I've had like Billy Billingham from the SS program, and so on and so on. And when I told people at work I got Chesney Hawkes, their reaction was like really kind of, it was nice. They were like, Chesney Hawkes. So like again, it's like you kind of resonate with different generations and stuff like that. And I was a big fan back in the 90s. I probably didn't tell too many people I was a big fan. I'm not going to lie because obviously you were kind of pop and more for the girls and stuff like that. But as a kind of lad that was joining the Paras, I didn't make that kind of well known, you know what I mean? But now everyone knows anyway, so I've shot it.
Yeah, it's too late. Your guilty secret is out.
Guilty, no dramas. But yeah, obviously you went on and you did you was going to do Dancing on Ice, but you kind of hurt your ankle, didn't you? Is that right?
Yeah, that was my own fault, to be honest with you. It was New Year's Day, and I'd been training for 3 months and got quite good at it, actually. I went from the very beginning where I couldn't even stand on the ice to literally like holding my partner over my head and spinning and jumping about. And I mean, it's amazing what you can do. The humans are incredible. 3 months solidly on the ice every single day with amazing trainers. I mean, you know what it's like being a paratrooper. What you can achieve as a human is endless, really. It is limitless. And so yeah, I did all that, but then of course made the fatal stupid mistake of getting on the ice a little bit hungover on a New Year's Day. And because I had the first show was like on the 6th, I think, on the 6th or 4th maybe of January. This is years ago now. And I thought, I've got to get on there. I've got to get on the ice. And, I kind of dragged myself out of bed. My wife was like, don't go. You just need to take a day off. Hindsight, she was right again, of course, always right.
Always up.
Because I came back in a cast up to my up to my waist, and I ripped ligaments out my ankle, which still causes me jip now, and I broke the tibia in my lower leg. Yeah, pretty nasty injury, that one. And then I had to watch Chico dance with my girl Jodine, which was hard.
Yeah, that's not. Yeah, fair play. Yeah, it's one of them though, isn't it? And again, what can you do? Stuff like that, and again, people don't really understand with ice skating and figure skating and stuff like that it does take a toll on your body and stuff like that. And obviously, being on skates, injuries are going to happen, and it is what it is. So yeah, a bit of a regret for you there, I guess, because it sounds like you were enjoying it up until that point.
I was. I really was. I don't know if I would have done as well as Chico did. He did great. He went right through and came third, I think he did. He was really good. But yeah, I loved the skating and I was quite good at the skating. I'm not sure how good I would be at the dancing bit. But I guess we'll never know. We'll never know, Chris.
Yeah, never know. Well, you never know. There might be. Well, I don't know how the old injury may hold up. I did my ankle at work pulling a cashier up a bank at an incident, and I did tore all the ligaments and stuff, and I can relate. And I've always been a little bit like, when someone sprains, because in effect it's a nasty sprain.
Yeah.
When someone sprains their ankle, I'm like, yeah, really? I did it, and it's probably the most painful injury I've ever had, and I've had a few, and I was like, wow, it's proper, deliberating, isn't it? For the better word, you know what I mean? So nasty ones.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I'm glad, and I've still got. I would class myself weak ankle. You probably say.
Well, that's it. It plays havoc, and obviously it aches when there's probably cold weather. Do you get that?
Exactly. Yeah. The old injuries, eh? It's what happens at our age, mate. Well, I'm a
good old war stories. If you don't look it, that's the problem. And if I take this off, I've got no hair as well. How have you got such a barnet on you at 50 odd, you know?
I think I'm just lucky, to be honest. I don't know. I mean, because my dad has good hair, actually. But my brother's slightly losing his, and he's younger than me. So I don't know. I just got lucky, I guess. Good genes, maybe.
Well, I had hair up until about 6 years ago, and then it just started to go, and then I started to get a call with the fryer at work. So I was a bit like, it's probably time for it to go now.
So you gave it the old shave?
Yeah, I've got like a complete bald head now. So, but
yeah,
I would just wear a hat a lot, so that's all good. Obviously, after that, you kind of went on, and I wanted to quickly talk to you about MasterChef, because you know what, I've been in a lot of kind of pressure situations, as I'm sure you have when you're kind of performing on stage and stuff. It's kind of stressful environments and stuff like that. Yeah. How did you find MasterChef? Because I cook at home sometimes, and my missus always tells me that I'm a very, very good cook. But I tell you what, I find it the most. I'm not a stressy person. I deal with pressure all the time in my jobs, and I have done in previous jobs. But you get me in a kitchen, and I tell you what, I am literally wound tighter than it's. How did you find that on that pressure with time scales and obviously stuff like that?
Yeah, it is hard. That really was a pressure cooker. The worst one was the mystery ingredient challenge. Because they have all the ingredients under a Hessian sack, and of course you've got your station there. And the other thing about it, which people don't realise, is you've got your station, but it's not what you're used to at home. Like I was used to gas, and I like gas, but it wasn't even electric. It was this induction shit. So like I remember putting on some potatoes to boil, and it wasn't quite on it, and so it wasn't my fault. I put it on, but it just didn't cook, and of course it's TV, so they made a big deal of this. Oh, Chesney didn't cook his potatoes. I was like, I fucking did. I did it. Like it is a pressure cooker. It really is. And of course you've got, but just because it's a competition, you've got all these people around you doing the same thing, and it's just like panic, and that clock, which you see it going down the whole time, and it's like, whoa. This is crazy. It was
different type of pressure, isn't it? And
very, very, and also they have this kind of like they make Jeopardy, on the show itself. They make Jeopardy, and they were like they'll have John Turode and Greg Wallace or whatever say, right, you've got 15 minutes left. If you haven't done this, then that's not going to happen. And then you could just you just watch it go down, and you realise, shit, I haven't got enough time for my tart to rage.
Well, like you say, them induction hobs, to be honest, it's like witchcraft with them. I've encountered them, and like you say, unless you've got the right pans and they're not dead centre, no, I much prefer gas when I'm cooking. But
no, me too. Funny enough, I've just moved into a place. I'm renting a place right now, and it's got an induction as well. And I was like, damn it, I hate that bloody stuff. Gotta get used to it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. How did you get on at MasterChef then? How did you kind of place?
I got into the semi-finals actually, and then I got stuppered by the baking challenge, which is another. To be honest, it's cooking and there's baking. It's a whole nother skill really, because it's chemistry really. Baking
measurements, isn't it? And
it's measurements, getting everything right. It's got to be exact. Whereas with cooking, you can be a little bit of this, a little bit of that. You can have fun with it. Yeah, with baking, you have to do it exactly right. The timing has to be right, and I fell down on that one.
Right. Yeah. Well, no, look, semi-final, that's not to be sniffed at. Fair play to you. So well done on that.
Not too shabby.
Not too shabby at all. So what have you got kind of coming up? What would you like to kind of plug? And kind of, obviously we talked about, I've recently been on a cruise and you was performing on that cruise. And like I said to you, I think I said to you off air, me and my fiance, but we're looking at coming to see you, but it was sold out. So, I mean, your popularity was, on the cruise ships and as a whole, and like you see your tours selling out and stuff like that. So yeah, what kind of other stuff have you got coming up and lined up?
Well, it's very much right this very minute. It's all about. I put one single out, Get a Hold of Yourself, did really well, charted, got on Radio 2 A-list, which was amazing. That and the video raised eyebrows on that one. I don't know if you saw that one, Chris. But I've just put out another single, Live For It, which is doing so well already. Like it's just already on the playlist, and which I'm just so thankful for. It's crazy. Then I'm going to put the album is available now for pre-order in case anyone got a Christmas present. Vinyl, CDs, and cassette. So I'm going old school, Chris. Going old school. So that's all available now. And then that comes out in February. And I'm going on tour next year, as I said before. And that's doing really well as well. So I don't know. It's just really, really grateful times right now. It's amazing. And I feel so free and kind of liberated in my own skin to do whatever I want to do. You get to a certain age, Chris, where you don't care what people, it's not you don't care, you're not worried about what people think of what you do, what you say, what you sing, for me. And I'm just enjoying it, way more than I ever was before. There's no pressure. I've let go of the outcome in a way. And as soon as you let go of the outcome of something, it starts to do well for some reason. So yeah, it's good times, really good time.
Well, it's really good to hear that. And like you say, I do get where you're coming from. You get to a certain age, and it's not a case of, like you say, not caring. You're just not really bothered by it. You kind of know it yourself. You've almost found it. And I think that happens, well, for me in my 40s. I didn't really know who I was through the 30s. I tried all these different careers and stuff. And then in my 40s, I kind of find a bit like, you know what, this is who I am. I might as well kind of use it and do what I don't try and be anyone different. Just be yourself. And like you say, you're producing music now and enjoying it. There's no pressure behind it. And if it does well, it does well. If it doesn't do well, as long as you're happy doing what you're doing and being a musician, that's surely got to be the main thing, isn't it?
Oh, no, totally. I think if you keep that in mind and you keep that positivity and don't kind of stress about the outcome of things, then I think you're winning. I know my priorities in life, and that's my kids and my wife and our life and our family. The priorities have all leapfrogged from when I was a kid, when it would have been selling out tours, that's what I want, but it's important. Of course, I'm going to earn a living and stuff, but, my most important thing and my biggest driving force in life is keeping happy. I just want to be happy, and I want my family to be healthy and happy as well. And that's really what's most important. I think the thing the most important in this life is who you love and who loves you, and that's that.
No, absolutely, pal, and that is a kind of a good philosophy behind it, and I do like that. And like I say, you appear to me very, very, very genuine, pal. So that I like that, and I talk to quite a lot of people that I don't always get those vibes, but I kind of do from yourself. So no, happy days, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure. Are you passing by Nottingham on your tour at all?
Do you know what? I'm getting into a lot of trouble for not coming anywhere near the Midlands.
What's wrong with the Midlands?
I don't. It's not my fault. It's the promoter. And I'm not doing Scotland either. I'm in terrible trouble with the Scots. Jesus. So I need to get that together. And I think we're adding some dates. So keep an eye out there. There will be some more Midlandsy gigs. I'm sure of it. Yeah. How can I have missed out the Midlands?
Well, not Nottingham. Derby and all that. I'm sure you will definitely sell out. In them sort of areas, and I say, where the Old Paratrooper podcast is. Couple of VIP tickets for me and my fiance. We'll come and meet you backstage. Well, I always, what people say to me: if you don't ask, you don't get. So I always ask. I always cheeky. You know where I am. So
it's a deal, Chris.
It's happy days. I look forward to that, and I'll hold you to that as well. So no,
right, it's a deal.
No, it's been an absolute pleasure, Chesney. Thank you very much for taking the time to come on. I'll have a quick chat with you off air in a second, but. No, I hope all goes well. And like I said, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Merry Christmas to you and your kids and your lovely wife, or fiance, sorry. Thanks for having me, mate.
No, same to you, pal. Merry Christmas, and you take care to the family.
Take care, mate. Bye.